So if you tell the machine to feed in 2 inches, the machine will try to do it in one cut.
You can break the tool maybe, right?
You can break the tool. It's very easy to break the tool.
So when it automatically hits the Z depth, it automatically comes back.
It automatically comes back out. It's all predefined. All you're doing is changing some variables, which we'll get into after this.
So like when we were doing the clamps, like even when it drilled the hole before we tapped it, it was like it was kind of going like that,
That's
right?
the G83 cycle.
Peck drilling, right? So it's peck drilling. Is that what? So on this one, for a 2-inch, you'd peck drill it versus.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. So 81 is very simple. You program the Z, the R, the F, and the machine takes care of everything else. Now compare that to the G85. What is the difference on the Z?
The spindle clockwise reading.
G85.
Oh, me too.
Feed in, feed out, and it's a boring cycle. So it's
There is no difference on the Z as it goes down. What's the difference at the hole at the bottom?
a boring cycle, so it should be straight, right?
There is no difference at the bottom of the hole. The only difference is how the tool comes back out. Right? So on the G81, where it says Z-axis retraction, it says it rapids out on the 81.
Yeah.
On the 85, it says it feeds out.
Feeds out.
So whatever feed you go in is whatever feed that comes back out. What kind of tool would use that kind of cycle?
Like a in mill. No. Feeding. Oh yeah, reamer, because you're boring it. Yeah, yeah.
85 is the reaming cycle. If you ever need to ream a hole, you don't want the tool to wrap it out. Otherwise, you're going to scratch the surface that you just had a nice finish on, and now you've lost all the accuracy of the hole. You're going to feed it back out slowly. Okay?
So it slows down.
So the 85 is very similar to the 81, but that should be used for reaming.
But when you said feed it out, we've already programmed the feed rate.
So the 81 rapids to the R,
Yeah.
feeds down to the bottom of the hole. Then it rapids out
Right.
as fast as the machine can go.
Mm-hmm.
The 85 will rapid to the R, just the same, feed down, just the same, but now it feeds back out nice and slow. Instead of the rapid, it feeds out slowly, so you don't damage the surface finish.
But that feed rate out
It's the same as going in.
Okay.
So if you put at 50, there'll be 50 coming out.
Okay. So that's right. That's what I was trying to say. The feed rate. So whatever feed rate you set going down, it stays.
It's this. G82. What does it do on the z-axis?
It feeds in,
Feeds in. What does it do at the bottom?
rapids out,
Stays there.
or drill it.
It dwells. G82.
Spot drilling. Oh, at the end of the hole, it dwells. Yeah.
So what is dwell? What does it mean?
Like a pause.
It's a pause.
M4, right? Machine pause.
So the machine needs a P value.
Position.
Just P. P for pause. How long do you want to pause the tool at the bottom of the hole?
So you have to program.
So it's exactly the same as 81, except at the bottom of the hole, it stays there. So in module 3, when you made the hammerhead, you put the counter bar in the chuck,
Oh yeah.
and then you brought the counter bar down. What did Ben tell you to do with the counter bar once you got to the bottom of the hole? Nothing?
I don't remember.
Told you to hold it there to make sure it cleans up at the bottom of the hole.
Yeah.
So you got a nice smooth finish, and it's even all the way around.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you don't let the counter bar spin a couple of times, theoretically, your finish is like that. So when you try to screw your hammerhead in, it doesn't fit properly. So by holding the tool at the bottom of the hole, you clean that up and you get a flat, smooth finish. So it says here it's a spot drilling cycle. But it should also be used for counterbores and countersinks. So if you're ever using a counterbore, countersink, or spot drill, you should always use the G82 cycle. That way you'll get a smooth, even finish at the bottom of the hole. G83. What does it do on the z-axis?
Intermittent feed-in?
What does intermittent mean?
G91?
83.
Oh,
What does intermittent mean?
like it's gonna go in and stop and then go in and stop.
Some of you might be too young to remember Woody the Woodpecker. Right? Goes in a little bit further every single time. The idea is that when the tool comes back out, you're breaking the chip and you're allowing coolant to get back on the tool to cool the tool down.
So that's for like thicker material, maybe?
So when you're doing a deeper hole, you've got to use the G83 cycle.
Peck drilling.
We're going to talk about how to work this out in a little bit.
It's like when you're doing manual, you go in and out.
So you're basically breaking the chip because your hole is so deep. If you try to drill too deep, there's too much heat being generated. So when you set the coolant up, totally set the coolant to the tip, right? Because that's where all the heat is generated. So as you get to the bottom of the hole, now where's your coolant hitting?
The top of the part.
Well, he's hitting the side of the part here. That doesn't help to cool the tool down. So we've got to bring the tool back out so the coolant can hit that tip again. Right? The G83 is the peck drill cycle. Compare it to G73.
The same. Only the difference is that application is high speed.
High speed peck drilling. So that'd be for like a thinner piece.
So G73, G83, they both intermittent feed in. They both have the option to dwell at the bottom of the hole. They both wrap it out. But one says peck drill cycle, the other says high speed peck drill cycle. So what is high speed?
No dwell. There's no dwell.
I could just change the F to make it go faster. So what makes it high speed? What's going to happen on the G83 cycle? We're going to start at the R value. And then you tell the machine to take a peck. Let's just say that peck is ½ inch. Right? So the first cut, now we're at ½ an inch. What is the tool going to do? It's going to retract all the way back to the R value. And it's going to come back in and take another cut. Now we're at 1 inch. What's it going to do next?
Go back up to our value.
Now it's going to retract all the way back out, wrap it all the way back down, and take the next cut. Now we're at 1.5 inches. What's going to happen next?
It's going to
Retract all the way back out,
to our value.
go all the way back in, and take another cut. So as you wrap it all the way back out of the part, you're just wasting time. You're not cutting anything. So the idea behind the G73 starts in the exact same place, takes the first cut at ½ inch, but instead of wrapping it all the way back out of the part, it just lifts up 50 to 100 thousandths
Above that last cut.
of the cut. Then it takes the next cut, and it backs off 50 to 100 thousandths.
It creates a new
So you're
plane.
not wasting all this time coming out of the part to cool the tool down.
You're creating a new plane. A new R plane every time, kind of.
So it saves you a lot of time because you don't have to wrap it all the way out to wrap it all the way back in. You just incrementally backing it off to break the chip.
But you still need coolant. You don't need.
Still need coolant. So you need TSC tooling. What does TSC stand for?
Tungsten steel carbide or something. Something that's a harder material or won't break as easily maybe, or won't get as hot easily.
Today we'll
Has to warm. The thing has to warm up.
Just wait for the screen to come back on.
The IT guy put all these in.
Do you want me to wipe that off the board? Everyone's going to pull it down.
She's not that
be
cute.
learning how the Haas through spindle coolant or TSC system works. Through spindle coolant is typically used to remove chips from holes while drilling or tapping. Traditional flood coolant has a difficult time getting into holes and removing chips, especially if the holes get deeper relative to their diameter. When chips are left in the bottom of a hole, your tool is constantly in contact with these chips. These chips can make the hole oversized, can ruin surface finish, and can wear your tool out prematurely. Not only that, without TSC, you'll be doing lots of peck drilling, which increases cycle time every time you drill a hole. Let's look at how Haas does TSC. The pump is the heart of the system, pulling coolant from your coolant tank through the spindle and into your tool by way of a rotating union and high-pressure hoses. Now we get to the part that is often misunderstood, the relationship between pressure and volume, and how this relates to the tool you choose and the orifice size in that tool. The pressure you actually get at the tip of your tool will vary. Let me explain. Use a large tool with large orifices, and you can see how much coolant is coming out. But look at the pressure. Now let's change to a smaller diameter tool with much smaller through holes, and you can see how the pressure has increased, but the volume is much lower. The TSC system you get will either be 300 psi or 20.7 bar, or 1000 psi, 68.9 bar. But that just means that the system is capable of these pressures. So how does this information apply to you?
TSC is just through spindle coolant. So now you don't need the tool to come all the way out to cool down because the coolant is always at the bottom of the hole cooling your tool down.
Is it a hollow tool?
Yeah, basically. There's a hole through the middle to allow the coolant to come out. Two little holes on the flutes of the drum.
Does that make that tool weaker?
Technically, yes, but you can still use it the same way. Remember, what is a drill?
A tool that cuts.
Roughing tool.
Roughing.
It's a roughing tool. You're not too concerned about surface finish. You're not too concerned about the finish size because it's a roughing tool. You need a really accurate hole.
Reamer.
You need to use the reamer. So G73 is only really used if you have through spindle coolant. Otherwise, all those chips stay in the bottom of the hole, and your hole can be oversized, just like I showed you.
And that's because the chips create pressure and it goes out like that, right?
Chips got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So if they can, they'll just go around the tool and force themselves against the tool and the part, and now you've got to rub that chip rubbed against the side
Plus
of the wall.
you could possibly break the tool in the part too,
Yep.
right?
So 81, 85, very similar. 83, 73, very similar. Let's have a look at G84. It says spindle clockwise feed in. Remember, you don't need to program an M3 with a tap. When you're running the clamps, a lot of you came to me and said, the spindle's not moving. The machine turns the spindle off so it synchronizes in the same place every time. So if you tap a hole, and then you measure it and it's not deep enough, you can run the can cycle again and put a new Z value and rerun the tap, and it'll follow the exact same threads because it synchronizes in the same place every single time. All right? So that's why the machine turns off the spindle, because it wants to synchronize to that position every time.
To make the threads the same so that you have equal threads when you fasten something.
No. So if I start my tap at that export position, and then the next time I come in, but I change the position of the tap,
Yeah.
now it's not going to line up with the threads I've already created.
Right. That's
So as long as I start the tap in the same place every time,
Yeah.
I can go back and re-tap the holes as many times
that's
as
what I was trying to. You said it better. That's what I was trying. My mind was thinking that way.
So it's spindle clockwise feed in. At the bottom of the hole, the machine automatically reverses the spindle. So as soon as it hits that Z, the machine will reverse back out. So remember when you tapped your fly cutters, you had to keep your hand on the switch.
Yeah.
And as soon as you saw that tap break through, you had to
You
stop
switch
it and then reverse it.
Yeah.
The machine does that automatically. That's why we can run it at higher spindle speeds. Remember the spindle speed for our tap? 3,000 RPMs. When you were tapping on the conventional, you were at like 50 or 60 if you were feeling brave.
Yeah.
Right? There's no comparison to the speed difference between the CNC and the conventional.
But you gotta use the oil, right? Every time.
Depends what you're tapping. If you tap in aluminum, the coolant should be okay. So it all depends on the material that you're going to tap. So the machine is going to feed out, and it says that that is a tapping cycle. Write it on. The G84
Right-hand
is for right-hand threads only. You cannot use 84 to do a left-hand thread. If you do, please come back and bring the part in so I can use it for future demos, because you are going to melt that tap inside of the hole.
You heard that, Brian?
100% guaranteed. You scrap the part. Right?
Make sure you bring it.
If you need a left-hand thread, you have to use G74.
Oh, okay. So there it is, right there. Left hand.
So like I said, I've only had you memorize 4 of the codes. A lot of them are exactly the same. But the function of them, you don't use them too often. It's not often you create a left-hand thread. It's not often you have to use the through spindle coolant.
Believe me, we appreciate it when we study.
So G74, if you notice, what's different about the spindle?
Dual spindle stop.
Counterclockwise. The machine turns counterclockwise. The tap has to turn the opposite direction to cut because of the way those flutes have been ground on the tap. G86, 87, 88, 89 are used with boring heads. Does anyone know what a boring head is?
Is it the way to start like a ream? Like is
It's like a very thick one.
oh those they look like a triangle kind of?
No.
No?
Alright, let me show you.
It's like,
You will see them out there in industry, but
For you,
these
it
John?
depends what kind of job you get. So if you think of an engine block, when your pistons are going to go up and down, the size of those holes are like this big. If you were to buy a reamer that size, how much is it going to cost you? It's going to cost you a fortune. And then as soon as the reamer is worn, you can't use it anymore. You can regrind it, but now the pistons are not going to fit correctly because you have to grind the reamer down to get it sharp again. So the alternative is to bore them out.
any gearheads, they always talk about boring out their cars to make it, you know, faster and stuff, right? More fuel.
I'm Mike Willis of Ntma, and today I'm going to show you how to use the boring head to bore the ID for a hole. The advantage of using a boring head is you can bore any size hole you want, basically. You can get different boring bars, do real little holes, and the boring head is adjustable. You can do real big holes. You can do oddball size holes, so stuff you can't drill to size. You can't buy a reamer for. It's real adjustable, and you get a real round hole using a boring head. When you first get your boring head, you want to set it. You want to set these side tension screws so they're snug, but not overly tight, okay? When you have them set right, you can still move this dial. That's how you adjust your boring size. You don't want to cinch these down tight. The boring head won't move if you're using it correctly. The only time it'll move is if you're getting a lot of chatter. And if you're getting a lot of chatter, you're probably trying to go too fast anyway. We'll put it in our spit. And then I've already pre-drilled a hole that we're going to bore. And I want to scratch in on the side of the bore so I know where my boring bar is. So I have a starting point. And to be able to see how when it scratches in, take a black magic marker and blacken the hole. Just in that one section, because I'll rock the boring head through that one section until I scratch through the magic marker. Now I'm going to dial the boring bar out until I scratch on the side where I scratch to the marker.
What he's doing here, let me just go back a second.
Is he setting the depth kind of, or
Scratch to the marker.
how much diameter he's going to cut out?
So as he's adjusting this screw here, that's moving this boring bar off the center line. So he's adjusting the size of it. This can be adjusted down to tenths, 0.0001. Right? So it's extremely accurate. So what he's doing, he's just bringing it out until it touches the side of the hole. But remember, when you drill a hole, the hole is not round. So right now it's still not accurate. He's got to take a cut, a very light cut, and then measure it before he can start going for size.
But how's he measure? Is there a gauge?
So he's going to touch against the side, right? So you see how it's touching the part now. See the scratch?
Now we've scratched the side of the hole, so we know we got a starting spot for our boring head.
So now he's going to take a cut.
I've set my boring head. I've scratched off on the side of the hole. Now I'm going to dial my boring head out. 10 thou on the dial, and then take a cut and see where I'm at. I like to use a little cutting fluid, or if you're using coolant, that's fine too. Just a little something to help.
See, the boring bar is not on center, it's off center.
Carbide tip? Is that
Now he's got a perfectly round precision hole. Now we can take a measurement and then keep adjusting that bolt until he gets to the size that he wants.
And how many
But you've got to
times?
take small increment cuts. You can't take too much. Otherwise, the boring bar will push off, just like the end mill does. Right? Cutting tools don't want to cut, even though they will. They'll rather push off than take the cut that they need to. So it's just like a reamer. You've got to leave a very small amount for the boring tool.
Is that a
So,
carbide tip?
So that one is, it's basically like a lathe tool, the way that it's constructed. But this one is a brazed carbide. So it's a piece of carbide welded onto a piece of high-speed steel to make it a little bit cheaper.
Now I'm going to use a telescoping gauge to check the size of my hole. Tip the telescoping gauge so you're not straight up and down. Tighten it, and then rock it straight back towards you. And then out of the hole. And then once my telescoping gauge is set, I can mic across that and see where I'm at. 844 thousandths. Once you gotta get it right on the tips of the telescoping gauge. Now I can adjust my boring head.
Now, earlier in the video, when I showed you,
The
Precision cut. How so
trying to find a good picture of it.
You can still move this dial. That's how you adjust your boring size. You don't want to cinch.
You can take the boring bar out of this one and put it over here as well. So when you make your adjustments, now you can offset the boring bar even further, so now you can do a bigger hole. Right? So it's not just for small holes. You can make any size you want. Just want to make sure you get the right boring head. Kind of expensive. Something like that's probably $300 to $500.
That whole setup?
Just the head.
Just
Just this head itself. No boring tool, nothing.
Damn.
Just the head itself.
But
Three
shit
to
is-
500.
Damn.
But you get what you pay for. It's a
Right.
precision tool. But you can see it takes a long time to set up. It takes a long time to machine the hole. That's why I'm saying you don't really need to learn these boring cycles inside out because they're kind of job specific.
So would this be a specialty in a shop, somebody who does boring like that?
So generally, if it's a specialty, they'll call them a jig bar. But it's kind of, the jig bar is a kind of old school technology now.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't see many of them out there in the shops. You can do the same thing on a CNC now.
Oh, but you could just put that inside the spindle.
Put it in the cam cycle and let the machine do its thing. So the 86, 87, 88 all use that tool. Right? Just don't have enough time to do a project with that tool, so that's why we're skipping over it a little.
Do you have any of those?
I do personally, but
Personally.
we don't have any people. All right, so if you turn over the page, on that page is everything basically we just watched in the videos, we talked about. What I want you to do is turn over the page 2 more times until you're on this one. So you've got a part, you've got 2 holes in it, and you've got the initial level, and then you've got the R-plane level. What is this trying to tell you?
That you're above the part, and then your
What chords use these 2 features? G98 and G99. So the initial level, if you want the tool to go back to where you started, you've got to program G98. If you wanted to go back to the R value that you programmed, you've got to program G99. So when you're setting your part up, you need to think about how are you holding it? Are there clamps in the way? If there's clamps in the way, you've got to be extremely careful with that 99 because you're going to hit a clamp if you're not careful. If you're holding something in a vise, there's no clamps to worry about. Use G99 all the time. On the page after that, you've got G81. quickly turn over the page, we'll come back to it. If you go to the Haas manual, the manual you get with the machine, that is literally the page that is in the manual. It tells you what you need to put in your program. It does not tell you how to do it, what the values mean. It assumes that you know all this information that we're going to go over. Okay? So make sure you write good notes. So just turn back to this one, and you can see what kind of information a G81 cycle needs.
X value, Y value, R value, Z value, and feed rate.
Most of the time, you don't need to program an X or Y value. Just think about how you do the tool change. You send the machine home, you grab the next tool that you want, and then what do you do with that tool? You move to the position you want to do something. So you're already there in place. So you could put it in the can cycle. But most of the time, you're already in that position that you need to be, so that X, Y is not needed. Right? What is needed is the Z.
Depth of the hole.
Z is the depth. How deep do you want the hole to be? Most of the time, it's going to be what? Going to be a minus, a negative number. If you tell the machine to drill a hole and you put Z2, the machine will drill a hole going up.
It's a positive.
It does what you tell it to do. So you can put a positive number here, and the machine will try to drill a hole going up. You need an R value. R value is where you want the tool to start feeding from. So you can start the tool G43, H1 or H2, H3, and Z 3 inches. That doesn't mean the machine is going to start peg drilling from 3 inches, cut nothing. It will read the R value, wrap it to that position, and then start feeding down. And that R value is typically how much?
100,000?
Typically 100 thousandths.
But when you place that R value in there, since you've already set up the part with your, when you first indicated, when we first set it up, the machine already knows the length, like the thickness of the material in the
How does
pipe.
the machine know the thickness of the material?
Because like when you touched off in the beginning, like, so it's
So,
when you put in
I
R,
take my part, I put it in the vise. How does the machine know how thick that part is?
doesn't know how thick it is, but it knows where, it knows the surface,
Oh.
right? Because when we first set up,
So it knows where Z0 is at.
right.
It doesn't know where R is at.
Oh, so if I put in R, I have to put a value.
You have to put a value. Otherwise, it thinks R is 0, and it'll wrap it to Z0. Now you just broke the tool. Always got to start with clearance. Start the tool away from the workpiece. So we got X, Y, we got Z, we got R, and then we have F. What is F?
Feed rate.
What is it measured in?
Gosh, what's it? Inches per minute.
Inches per minute. How much material are you going to remove per minute? Okay. So a G81, you need to put a Z, you need to put an R, and you need to put an F. X, Y is optional. You you should already in position of where you're going to drill the first hole. Right? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So turn over the page. Got that page from the manual. Gives you a program example. If you're ever out there and you can't remember how to program this, you've got something to reference, right? Turn over the page again. And now we've got drilling with dwell. You ever use a spot drill, counterbore, countersink, got to use the 82. All right. So again, on the page after, I've give you the page from the Haas manual. It has an example on there. But again, it doesn't explain any of the values. Have a look at line number 5. It says G82, you know what that means. Spot drill cycle. G99, you know what that means. Turn to the R value. You've got a Z, so you know how deep it is. What is P? P is our dwell. How long is it going to stay at the bottom of the hole?
5 seconds.
0.5.
0.5 seconds.
Is that half a minute? Half an hour? Half a second? It doesn't tell you, right? So you've got to be aware of what these values are. Okay? So on the G82 cycle, you've got a Z. What does Z represent?
Your starting point right at the top of the part.
Depth. How deep
depth.
you want to go with the tool. You've got an R. What does the R represent?
Get back to the
Return plane or the retract plane. Same thing. But now we have a P. P for pause or dwell.
dwell time at Z depth.
And it's in seconds.
So it is seconds.
Measured in seconds.
Is there a recommendation for like how much time depending on the material? Like,
Yeah.
oh, this should be 10 seconds. This should be 5 seconds.
So there's a way to specifically work this out. P is equal to 120 divided by the RPM of the tool. So where does 120 come from?
It's
Woke up this morning, I thought 120 sounds good.
No,
Yeah.
Is
He
that where
said-
it comes from?
like if you did 2 minutes, like 60 seconds times 2 is 120 seconds.
So really, the formula is 2 times 60 divided by RPMs. 2 times 60 is obviously 120. So where's the 60 coming from?
60 seconds.
60 seconds in a minute. Because this is measured in RPMs, we need both values to be in the same units. So where's the 2 coming from? That's how many revolutions of the tool you need to clean up the workpiece.
Oh.
Right? So once the tool hits the bottom of the hole, and it rotates one time, and then another time, how much material is left? Nothing. So the longer you leave it now, what are you doing to the tool?
Letting it cool off.
You're rubbing the tool against the material.
Oh.
And you're going to wear the tool out. So all you need is 2 revolutions of the tool to get a smooth, clean finish.
It saves the life, extends the life of the tool.
Extends the life of the tool and helps us make our parts faster. You could leave it at the bottom of the hole for a whole minute if you wanted to. But what benefit is it giving you? There's no material to cut. You're just wasting time. So all you need is 2 revolutions of the tool. That's it. No more material left. Any questions about G82? Also has an F, which is the same as G81, it's the feed rail. Any questions?
This, like, you know how you gave us, this, like, from the book? Is that on PDF if we go to
If
the,
you go to us website and look for CNC mill manual, you can download it.
put it on my flash drive?
So, did the revolution change
That's a
depending on
good
the
idea.
tool you're using? Or
Put it on my flash.
2 is the standard amount.
You just refer to
Doesn't
your
matter if
notes.
the count
Or your
sinks,
tick
quad
coding.
drill, count the ball.
Yeah,
After 2 full revolutions, should have cleaned up.
I think I did pretty good
Hasn't,
today.
it's a problem with
On the
you.
G test.
So
Find out.
G83, our peck drill cycle.
Woody Woodpecker cycle?
Turn over the page. There's a lot more things you can do with the G83 cycle. There's a lot more letters you can use. Look at the list of the letters now. You've got X, Y, Z, Q, I, J, K, P, R, and F. We are going to do the simplified version of this. All right? There's a simplified version and there's a custom version. Quickly talk about the custom version, but we're going to program the simple version of it. So it needs a Z. Just how deep you want the tool to go. You need an R, which is our return plane. But now we have a new letter, Q. Q is the depth of cut. Or more specifically, the peck amount. How deep do you want the tool to go before it comes back out and you break the chip? So what value are you going to put for Q? Let's go back to module 2. Remember when you were drilling the parallels? Brought the tool down, started to take a cut, and then you lifted the tool back off to break the chip. How big was each cut?
100,000?
So it starts
Just did whatever you felt like until the drill went through?
That was like
I wonder all the drills are worn out.
it was like 100,000, wasn't it? Something like
So
that.
Q,
1.5 inches.
Q is 1.5 to 3 times the diameter of the tool. You've got a range. 1.5, 1.5, or you could use 2, 2.5, 2.3. All depends on the material that you're going to cut. So for the low range, why would you want to use the low range?
RPMs, so you can.
What's the difference between aluminum and steel?
Steel's harder.
one's hard.
Steel is harder. So which one would you use for steel?
The low range.
The low range. So harder materials go at the low end. Remember on that chart that I gave you? It gives you the Brunel hardness. What is that telling you?
How hard the material
How hard the material is. The higher the number, the harder the material. The harder the material, go on that low end.
Now you don't put that in a program. You just set the machine up, right? For
You better put it in the program.
the low range, it's going to be programmed.
You gotta work it out. This is just how to work out Q.
Oh, okay.
Take that number and times it by the diameter of the tool.
And then you put that in the machine.
So this high range, the 3, would be for what?
Aluminum, softer materials.
Soft materials. What else is going to be a factor? Nothing?
How thick the material is. Or
How
how,
does that affect anything?
or how, because like if you have like 6 inches or 8 inches to cut, it's going to be more
Bigger diameter.
Which tool is stronger?
the thicker one.
Why?
It's more rigid.
Small material makes it more rigid. This one is a lot easier to flex if you go too fast. So depending on the diameter of the tool, it's also going to depend what range you are going to work with. Right? So that low range is for smaller tools. $125 and under, I would classify as a small tool. So 125, 100, 75,000, 50,000, anything that's smaller than 125. That doesn't mean depth, it just means
Diameter.
under 125 in this case. Change it just in case you get confused. So under 125. The high range is for larger tools.
Because they can take more punishment, right?
It's very hard to break a drill bit. You've got to do something seriously wrong to break a drill bit.
What's the material?
High-speed steel.
High speed steel.
I went through like 2 of those.
You're doing something seriously wrong.
No, I did. I'm saying I went through 2 of those.
It's extremely hard to break larger tools.
Oh, no,
Once you get to half-inch tap size, it's extremely hard to break.
Which is when
So larger tools are tools larger or above 125 thousandths.
Anything above that, anything below.
Does the machine have coolant? Or do you have a little spray bottle that you got to periodically spray on that? That's going to depend on what range you're going to use. If you need to keep opening the door to spray coolant on there, you want smaller pegs. If the machine has coolant and it's continuously blasting against the tool, you can take bigger cuts because the tool should be cooling down very quickly. Right? So we've got a Z, an R, a Q, and F,
should be the same.
which is our feed rate. Most CAN cycles are the same. The only difference between the 82 and the 81 is the P. The only difference between the 81 and the 83 is the Q. That's it. So what other CAN cycle have you had to do on quiz each week?
G84,
G84.
tapping drill cycle.
We need a Z value for the depth. need an R value. For the tap, you do not use 100,000s. Do not use 100,000s.
For the G84.
G84.
You want to go higher?
Remember the other day we worked out the feed rate for the tap. Anyone remember what it was?
It's in the book.
It's 3,056 divided by 28. Right?
The
3,056 divided by 28 gives you a feed rate of how much?
109.
109. So how fast does the machine go from 0 to 109?
It's rapid.
It's quick, but it isn't instant, right? Just like your car, when you go from 0 to 60, it's not instant. You've got to accelerate. The machine needs time to accelerate from 0 to 109. If you start too close to the workpiece, and your feed rate is not correct, what's going to happen to your first couple of threads? It's going to be messed up. So now when you try to screw the bolt in there, it will never fit. So you have to allow the machine some time to accelerate. So the R value is 4 divided by threads per inch. So what does the 4 represent here?
Flutes.
4 revolutions of the tool. Some people will tell you to use 2 or even 3. And if you program it wrong, you can't fix the thread, it's done. So I recommend you start at 4 and then work your way down until you get it perfected. If all you're tapping is 1 hole, just use 4. Guaranteed to come out good. So you cannot use 100 thousandths on a tap. It needs a little bit extra time to accelerate, to get to the full feed rate. F109 is extremely high. It doesn't go 0 to 109 like that. It's a little bit of time to accelerate. And then we have F for the feed. How do we work out the feed rate for a tap?
By inches per minute.
I just went over it. What numbers did you type in on your calculator?
2,056.
Which represented
RPM and then
the
time,
RPM,
times the tap,
and then we divided by 28, which represented
the threads per inch.
threads per inch. So for the feed rate, four decimal places. For the p-value, 3 decimal places. For the q-value,
2,
3 decimal places.
3, 3, and 4.
So X, Y, Z, and F, 4 decimal places. Any other letter, 3 decimal places. Unless it's T for the tool, or S for the spindle speed. There's no decimal place.
X, Y, Z,
X, Y, Z, and F.
4 decimal
4
places.
decimal places. T and S, no decimal places.
T and S, no decimal places? Zero.
You can't have T0 1.1. You can only have T1 or T2 or T3, no decimal place. Same thing for the offset. So, any questions about CAN cycles? So pull out the blueprint for the drill tap project. Everyone got this copy down. Wipe it off. If you need to, take a picture. We'll go to YouTube in seconds.
I got it on YouTube if you guys want to watch it later.
So previously, we went over speeds and feeds for the tools. What tools do we have? Tool 1 is a spot drill. What do we know about that spot drill?
The diameter.
What else do we know about it?
Feed rate is 9.168. And RPMs 528.
We've got a spindle speed, 1,528. And we've got a feed rate, 9.168. Tool number 2. I'll write it off here. Straight to the stairs. What is the number 3 drill? What is that in decimal?
0.213.
And then we should have a spindle speed.
3587. 300.
And a feed rate.
7.761.
And then tool number 3.
The 1/4 by 28 tap.
And a spindle speed.
200. I mean, 356. I mean, 3056.
3,056. And a feed rate of 109 point. How much? 1429?
14, yeah, 109.1420.
We're not going to worry about the end mill today. We're focusing on CAN cycles. Right? So we're going to focus on tool 1, 2, 3. We're going to come back and do tool 4 tomorrow. So we know what tools we're using. We know what speeds and feeds. We should also know the hole positions. Right? We worked out the whole positions using the formula that we covered in class a couple of weeks ago. What else does the machine need to know? What did we just cover?
G98, G99.
The R plane?
What CAN cycle are you going to use for each tool? So, spot drill. What CAN cycle should we use for a spot drill?
GD2?
G82. Tool number 2, a drill. What CAN cycle should we use for a drill? We've got 83 or 81. Are we going to do it in one cut, or we're going to take multiple cuts? Got to figure that out. We'll come back to that. And then what CAN cycle are we going to use for the tap?
G84.
Why 84?
Because that's the tap drill cycle.
74 is
Oh, yeah.
tap cycles.
Oh,
Why
because it's
we
right-handed.
right-hand threads, so we're going to use G84. So now you've got a choice between G98, G99. What's the difference between the two codes? Just watch the video. What happened on the video?
Yeah.
The guy broke the drill. Why?
He didn't.
There was a clamp in the way.
He didn't
Right?
go above the clamp.
So think about how are we going to hold this part?
In a vice?
We're going to hold it in a vise. Are there any clamps in the way?
No.
So it's going to be safe to use G99, right? If there were clamps in the way, you might want to use a mixture of them both.
You compensate.
So for all the cycles, we're going to use G99. That means when it comes out of the hole, it's going to go to the R value. Whatever we put in the CAN cycle, it'll go back to that R value every single time. For all, no clamps, so we don't have to worry about using 98. So what else do we need to program in a G82? We'll just write on the board. We need a P. What else? P. Z. So we need a Z value. We need an R value. And you're always going to use how much if it's not a tap?
100,000?
100,000. And then we need a P value. How did we work out P?
He was
120 divided by the RPMs, the spindle speed. So 120 divided by 1,528. How many decimal places can we go?
4.
3. So what number is it to 3 decimal places? 79. 0.079. The F, we already got. We worked out the feed rate already, right? So you need a Z, an R, a P, and an F. And you've got to do all this before you start programming. Because once you've worked out all the math, it's just copy into your program. It makes it easy. Right? So tool number 2. We've got a choice to make. Are we going to use G81 and do it in one cut? Or are we going to use G83 and do it in multiple cuts? to choose between G81, G83, what you need to do is calculate the Q value. So what do we know about Q?
Use practices.
It's 1.5 times the diameter of the tool, or 3 times the diameter of the tool, or any number in between. 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 2, 2.2, any number in between. It depends on the hardness of the material, and it depends on the size of your tool. So if you do 1.5 times 213, what number do you get?
$3,195.
How much?
3,195 point. 3,195.
195?
3,195.
If you do 3 times the diameter of the tool, you're going to get 639. So your Q needs to be between those two numbers. That's what the formula is telling us, right? Everyone agree?
I agree.
Next, you're going to compare Q to the material thickness or the depth of the blind hole, if you're doing a blind hole. So for this project, what kind of hole are we doing?
A through hole.
It's going through. So we've got how much material here?
It's thin, so it's a couple 100,000.
Tells you on the blueprint. 1/4 inch material, 250. So compare Q against the material thickness. If you use the smallest Q value, 3195, what do you notice about it?
It's close.
If you feed the tool down 319 thousandths, 5/10, how much material is going to be left?
So what is it? Say that one more time. If you feed,
So we know this material is 250 thousandths. Right?
Mhm.
If we tell the machine to go 319 thousandths,
it goes all the way through.
it goes all the way through. So is there any point in peck drilling?
No.
There is no point, because it's going to go through in one cut regardless. So what's the point in programming G83? We don't need to. Right? So when you compare the depth of peck against the material, if the peck is bigger, use G81. PEC is smaller, we're going to use what?
G82.
Nope.
Or G84, I mean.
Nope. 83.
83.
So if I change the material thickness, now we have 750 thousandths. Do you want to take that in one cut? No, the biggest cut we can take is 639. So you can't use the G81, right? So it all depends on the material thickness against the PEG size. That makes sense? Yes, no, a little bit. Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe
When you
tomorrow.
forget.
Maybe tomorrow.
If the peg is bigger than the material thickness, you're just wasting time peg drilling. Just take it in one cut. If the peg is smaller than the material thickness, you need to peg. Otherwise, you're going to generate too much heat on the tool. Right? So for tool number 2, we're going to use G81. If the material is thin, we can just take it in one cut. So we've got G81, G99. We need a Z, how deep the tool is going to go. We need an R. What is the R value?
100 thousandths.
100 thousandths, unless it's a top. And then we need an F that we already have, 10.761.
Our feed rate.
So for G84, we need a Z value. We need an R value, but because it's a tap, we need to do what? We need to calculate it. We need to work it out. So what was the formula for a tap? RPM divided by threads per inch was for the feed rate.
Inches per.
4 divided by threads per inch. So 4 revolutions divided by 28 gives you what? 143 thousandths? Yeah. And then the F we already have. Right? So we need a Z, we need an R, and we need an F for the top. Remember, if the spindle stops before it taps, that's okay. What is it doing?
Just pausing.
It's synchronizing the spindle,
Oh, yeah.
so it starts in the same place every single time. Okay? So
Synchronicity.
we've got our tools, we've got our positions, we've got CAN cycles that we're going to use. The only thing that is missing are Z values. Rather than throw a bunch of numbers at you all together in one day, we'll go over the Z's tomorrow.
Thank God.
We'll break it up a little bit to help you digest what we covered. Right? So today I'm going to give you the Z's, but tomorrow I'll explain how those Z's were calculated. Right? So we need to open up Notepad.
Let's do this. And we're gonna put that information in our program, right? All that we just worked out.
Option.
It's optional.
Option. Are you going to remember all that information in, let's say, 2 months' time?
No.
Put it in there. And since you guys got memories like goldfish, I would recommend you put it in there.
That's why I do YouTube it, because I have recorded. And then we have goldfish memories.
You always forget that you took a video. So what does every program begin with?
0.
Percentage sign.
No.
Percentage sign and then the 0.
Percentage
I mean,
sign,
and then an O, I mean.
and then the letter O.
For goldfish.
Percentage sign. Make sure caps lock is on. Letter O. Class number 19.
The best.
Student number. I'll be student 11. And then your project number.
This is number 12, I think, or 11.
Now, just a reminder, you can only have 5 numbers here. You can only have 5 numbers. So if it ends up being 6, you need to delete one of your numbers. So I'm just going to call this program 9.
Sounds good. Why is it only good for 5 numbers? Like, what?
That's all the machine can handle.
It's all can
From
handle.
1 to 99,999.
Oh, okay.
As the machines start to get more memory, they'll increase that number. So the previous generation, you could only have 4 numbers.
Oh,
But now it's 5. So eventually you'll become a minute.
when we're like 75, when we're like Mr. T's age.
So what is this program for?
That bolts, right here, it's called.
Don't have to copy anything that I put. You can make your own definition here. I'm just calling it drill tap bolt circuit.
Some guys are calling it goldfish. Drill tap goldfish.
And in 2 months' time, they'll wonder why they call it goldfish. So what are we going to put next? Tool list.
T1.
What tools we need to set up? Tool 1 is the 1/2-inch spot drill, 90 degrees. Tool 2 is the number 3 drill. Tool 3 is the 1/4 28 tap. And then tool 4 is the 5/8 2/3 end mill. What else should we put? Why are you going to set your offsets?
Oh, yeah. Your G.
Why did we say G54 was on this project? In the middle. So write a note to yourself. G54, XY, the center of the part. Where's Z0? Top of the pot. So what's next?
Safety line.
What's safety line? So I'm just going to bring it down. If I bring it down too far, please just speak up. So what is our safety line?
That would be our first line, right?
What's on it?
G17, G20, G4, G8.
If you want to put line numbers, you can. I'm not going to put line numbers, I'm being lazy.
But they're only references anyways, right? Just to,
Reference for you if you have any problems in your program. I'm pretty confident I'm going to get my program right.
we're gonna trust you on that too. We're not gonna put
What's
it
next?
Send your Z home.
Send the machine to the home position. We don't know where the machine's at right now.
G28.
G91, G28, Z0. G91, G28, X0, Y0. What tool's in the spindle?
Tool number 1.
How do you know? We don't know, so we're going to tell the machine we want tool number 1. It already has tool number 1. What's going to happen?
Won't do anything.
It won't do anything. So what are we going to do with tool number 1? We're going to spot drill some holes. Where?
On
Where's the
those
first hole?
in the center,
In the center. So what's the XY?
0, 0.
0, 0. Right? So G90, G54, rapid to X0, Y0. And the tool is not going to cut anything unless it's rotating. So what do we need to do with the spindle?
Turn it on.
Turn it on. How fast?
Whatever our calculation, yeah.
1528. We already did all this math. It's just putting it into the program now. Right? So S
1528.
1528 M3. Turn it on clockwise.
And we're gonna single block it as well, right? On like when we're doing it up there, we're gonna
Always single block it until you are 100% sure that the machine is not going to crash. Only time you know that is once you run the program all the way through in single block. Right? So we move the tool from the home position to 0, 0. What do we need to do with the Z?
bring it down to
Bring it
the
down. How do we bring it down? What do we have to activate?
R.
How long is the tool?
Oh, the G43.
G43, tool length compensation. If we're using tool 1, we've got to use offset 1.
H01.
How far are we going to bring the tool down to? 100 thousandths?
100 thousandths above the.
So what happens if it's wrong? Your offset's wrong. You just crash the machine. So we should go where instead? 1 inch above the workpiece. So if it looks like the tool's getting too close to the part, when you're pressing feed hold, you can stop the machine before it crashes. Right?
In case we were wrong when we set it up.
Double check everything all the time. You won't scrap things off. So once we've brought it down on the Z, what are we going to do next?
Put in our information over here.
In our can cycle.
Can cycle.
So we got G82, G99, Z negative, $109,000. I'm going to explain where these numbers come from tomorrow, remember? And then we have an R value, 100,000, a P value, 0.79 seconds, and then an F value, 9.168. Doing all the math before you write the program enables you to just